Hey, it's Daps here and welcome to this channel. Do you know that feeling you have when you visit a website that has a very sleek notification drop down? That one that works, the kind that smoothly updates, it remember what you've read. It doesn't even reload when you interact with it. Well, today in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to build one of those. And here's the kicker. We are doing this without writing a single line of code. As a matter of fact, let me show you what we're going to be building today. I've got this simple form here where I can easily type something like flash sale 50% on everything in store, and I'll set it to expire at any random time, hit the submit button, and boom, you can see that appear in a notification drop down. But wait, it gets even better. When I click on this little check mark here to mark it as read, watch this. It vanishes like magic. No page refresh, no loading spinner, just gone. And see that counter? It automatically updates from 3 notifications down to 2 notifications. That's the power of what we are building today. Your visitor get a smooth professional experience and you get to look like a coding wizard, even if you've never written a single line of code before. Before we dive in, let me walk you through what we are building exactly in this video. First and foremost, we are creating a custom content type for our notification. Think of it like a filing cabinet that stores automatically and organizes everything for us. Secondly, we are building a simple form and we'll be using JetForm for this, so you or your team can now add the notification from front end. No need diving into the WordPress admin every time you want to announce something on your site. Thirdly, we are setting up an intelligent query system. This is the brain that decides which notification to show and which one to hide. Expired notification, gone. Already read notification, also gone. And fourthly, we'll be creating a data store that remembers what each user has already read. It's like having a personal assistant for every visitor on your site. Finally, we are wrapping all of this up by creating a beautiful drop down that automatically updates. No waiting, no refreshing, just smooth professional functionality. The beauty about this is that every step I mention here is something we are going to build visually. We are literally pointing, clicking, dragging here and there to building this up. If you can use a modern smartphone, then you can build this system. So without further ado, I think we should get started building this already. I'll be using this store for tutorial purpose in this video. It's just a random e-commerce store that we're going to be using. And it's quite a very beautiful one. But before we get started into trying to build this notification on this store, let's just go to the back end. I need you to know that there are some requirements for us to be able to build this. And the first requirement is some plugins that we will need for this. So now let me come to plugins here. Let me come to installed plugins. I just need to walk you through this. So the first plugin that is required for us to be able to build this is JetEngine. JetEngine is the powerhouse that would help us build everything from the custom content type to queries to dataset. We are going to be building that using JetEngine. And the second plugin required for this is JetForm. And this is the plugin that we are going to be using to build the front-end form that people can fill in to have your notification. And then the third plugin that we need for this is JetElement for Elementor. And that's because I'm using Elementor page builder for this. In your case, you might be using other page builder like Gutenberg or Bricks. That's literally fine. To be able to get access to all of this plugin, you just need to invest in CocoBlocks. We'll leave CocoBlock link in the video description. You can get it. If you invest in their all exclusive access, you will be able to have access to all of these plugins here. As you can see on the screen, you can see them, a ton of fantastic plugins here. You just need to pick up these 3 plugins and then install, and then with your page builder, of course, and that's it. Before we continue building as well, there are still some modules inside of JetEngine we have to turn on. So let's just quickly rush down to JetEngine here. Let's click on JetEngines. And then immediately we'll be brought to this module here. A few modules we must turn on here, and the first one will be that we want to turn on our data store, and the second one is our custom content types, And then finally, dynamic visibility. We need these three important modules to be on, and then we'll save this. So step one to building this form will be that we create a custom content type. So if we scroll down here, we will see option here for custom content types. We can easily launch this, and then we can easily add a new custom content type. For these, we can give this a name and we can call this notification. Feel free to name this whatever you want. We're going to leave all of these settings as they are, and then we are just going to come down here to field. We want to create a new field for this, and the first field we want to create here is our content. So I can call this notification content or content. Feel free to name this whatever you want, but to keep it simple, I'll just call it notification content. And then we're going to come down here. The object type here is field. So our field type, we're going to change this to text area. So that's it for this. And then we can scroll down here. We can easily add the new field. This new field here will be our expiration date, because we want to set notification out that would have expiry date. Imagine it's Black Friday and we want to send a notification out for 50% coupon code, and we want it to expire at a certain time. That's the beauty about this notification. So if it has expired, it gets deleted even if the user doesn't get to see it, which kind of makes sense, right? So now let's call this notification expiry date. Like I said, feel free to call this whatever you want to call it. That's literally up to you. And for the field, object type here is okay. For our field here, we're going to click this, and then we're going to change this to date time, right? Because definitely we want to select a date in our form for that. We have to ensure that we save this as timestamp. You wonder why we should do that. That's extremely important. It's extremely important because this will allow us query and compare dates properly, so we show and hide notification based on whether this has expired or not. That's extremely important. And once we are done with this, I think that's basically the two fields we need to create here. We can just come up here to the far right here and add a content type. And this should take us to the second step, which is for us to create a form. We can just easily just come down here to create a new form, and it will load a new page. Great, so we can now see what our form look like already. The beauty about this is that we have little or nothing to do here. If we come to our post submit action, from here we can just make a little edits to this. We can see that this content type has been mapped as notification, which is fantastic. We just want to change this status here to publish, because again, you know, we don't want a notification that are in drafts to show publicly. So we only want this to display notification that are published, which is fantastic. So for our field maps, you can see that notification content has been mapped as notification content, while the expiry date has been mapped as this, which is quite very fantastic. So we're just going to update this, and that's everything we want to do from here. Okay, one more thing, we can come to general message settings, and from here, forms submitted successfully. We can just change this, because this is no more a form, this is more like a notification. We can just say notification added successfully, and let's put a full stop to that. And that's everything we want to do from here. We can just hit the save button, and that's it. We now have our form ready for us to use. Now the next step is for us to create a query. Like I told you, that's the brain for the notification. So for us to be able to do this, let's come back here and let's come to JetEngine here. And from here, we can see a place for query builder. Let's launch this. We want to add a new query. For a query here, we can just give it a name. As usual, I will just say notification query. Feel free to give this whatever name, or maybe just give it a query. That's fantastic. I can come to post a query here, and I can change this to content custom type query. And we can scroll down. For our cache, I might just want to turn this off. Sometimes cache can really affect our queries. In your case, feel free to experiment with this if this would make sense for you. And then we can scroll down here. What we want to do from here is to change the status from this to publish. I think I'm missing something here. Okay, that should be the content type. Basically, we want to come here and we want to come to notification. And immediately we do that, we can come down here. We can now add a query. And the first option we have here is the field. We want to select this and we want to come to notification expiry date. And then for our compare, we want to come here and we say greater or equal to. This might not make sense to you right now, but I think I'm going to explain this to you when we are done. And for the value, let's just use this dynamic tag here. We can just use a macro call today, right? So let's use this. And finally, the type here should be a timestamp. This is extremely important because when we are making a notification, we already have a field for an expiry date. And we want this query to only display notification that is equal or greater than today. It means that there should be no point in time that any user will see a notification that has expired, which is not equal to today. I don't know if this makes sense to you, but that's exactly what we want to do. And once we are done from here, we can just hit add query. So that's it for query, and this should take us to the next step, which is for us to create a data store. If we come to JetEngine, we can come to data stores here, and then we don't have anything. Let's just create a new one. The reason for creating a data store is because we want users to be able to click on a notification to toggle them as read. And once they have toggled them as read, we don't want them to see the notification again. So that's the reason why we are doing this. If not, once somebody read the notification and then refresh the page, the notification is still there, which doesn't really make sense. So now let's call this read notification. And then the slug is fine. For our store type, cookies won't do the magic because users can easily clear their cookies. They can easily change their user IP or local storage. We're going to work with user metadata because once this store has that metadata, that's unique to that person, regardless of whatever IP address that person is coming from or whether or not that person has cleared their cookies. So that way we can identify that user. We're going to leave all of these things the way they are, but we're going to come down here for our custom content type store. We're going to toggle this on, and for content type, we're going to change this to notification, and that's good. We can just come down here and hit the save changes. That's it. Before we continue anything else, I would always advise that once you do this, always come to your custom content types. Maybe we should open this up in a new tab. Definitely the only one we have here is the notification. We can edit that. We just want to save that again so that you understand that we now have a new data store for this custom content type. So now let's update this, and that's literally everything we want to do from here. So the next step is for us to create notification and also a drop down, which is extremely important. If you come to the front end of this website, you can see my menu here. I want to add that notification icon somewhere here. Forgive this if this is showing this way. It's just something random I designed. So to be able to customize my header, I will just come back here, and then I'll come to Ultimate add-on for Elementor, and then I'll come to my header and footer. And we would edit this with Elementor. Maybe we should do that in a new tab. To be able to add my notification icon here, I can just search for Dropbar. So I have the widget here, Dropbar. I can drag this into anywhere. Okay, let me just drag this to after the cart, something like this. Let me move this a little bit so you can see this here. So now let's customize our dropbar. We can either make this text or we can make this an image. For text here, we can just change this to, let's say, notification. And then we can just come to an icon here, maybe icon library here, icon after. I can just search in bell. And then I should be able to see an icon here for bell. I can just maybe use this. It's just random, just something like that. So that works for your notification. If that's okay, again, you can switch this to image. and then you can select an image. I think I have some image in my library here. I just want to use something like this, just image alone. You can see that image is overly big. I can customize that. I can possibly just change this to custom, and then for the width I can just do 20 by 20 if that won't be too big, and then I can apply that. So you can see that. So for my icon here, I can literally just say none, and you can see that that is gone. That's super awesome, right? I can as well still possibly just make this background transparent. You can style this however we want to. So if we come to style for our background here, we can just come here and then easily just make this transparent, something like that. But one of the things I would have loved to do would have just been maybe to group this into one singular container and then keep it very close to each other. But feel free to style this however you want to. Whatever works for you here is awesome. So right now I can come back to my content. I'm going to leave this the way it is, and then I can come down. For our content type here, by default we can just use simple text, but I would want to change this to a template because template will give us more option to design stuff. Unfortunately here we don't have any template already designed, so that's exactly what we are going to do real quick. But before I go to that, I can just come to settings here, and for my width I can specify a width for the drop bar. If you over on this, there should be a drop bar here. Maybe I can just do 400 pixel, and then we can come back to our drop bar here. We just want to maybe publish things here first, and then let's come back to our website here. Let's come to Elementor. Under Elementor, we want to come to the template, and then we want to come to add a new template. Let's do this in a new tab too as well. And we can just create a new template. Let's make this a container, and then let's call this notification. There's a notification drop down. Let me just change this. Notification drop down is fantastic. I can just create this template. We have a pop-up here to create a listing for this drop down, and that's basically what we want to do here. Really, that should be the next step, but Cookerblock is already picking this up. It's fine. We can just change this to query builder. Then for our query, we can just come to a notification, which is what we created. We can call this notification listing. That's fine, and then we can create a listing for this. So now we can create a notification drop down, but we're just going to publish this. We're going to take a pause from this, and then we need to go and edit our listing. Remember we created that earlier. So now let's come back to our website here. Let's come to our JetEngines from here. So there's a place for listing and components. So let's click on this, and then you will see that I created this notification listing not long ago. So now let's edit this in a new tab with Elementor apparently. Again, for us to be able to have something to work with here, we need to actually have notifications on our website. But again, we don't have anything. We can just go back to create one or two notifications. So if we come back here and we come to notifications that we created earlier, the custom content type, let's launch that. And then we can possibly just add a new notification. I can just type in something random here like hello, have you subscribed to this channel yet? Do so now. And that's extremely important. So this notification, I can just put any random date for that, and then I'll hit done, and then I can add this notification. And that's extremely important. If you're watching this video and you have not subscribed to this YouTube channel, do so now, so that you don't miss out on awesome tutorials like this from us. So I can add a new item too as well here, and then I can just say buy today and qualify for free shipping when you have a qualifying order of $100 and above. Yeah, qualifying is wrong. I can correct that, or there should be order. I can correct that. Okay, this should be a full stop. That's corrected. We can also add that. So maybe today, whatever time of the day you want that to end, and you can just hit done here and then add this notification. Let's go back to our listing. Now let's create something. Basically, we might just want to style this a little. Let's come to the settings here. Let's just make this like 400. Maybe we should just do this 500 pixel, something very close to what we have for the size, so that we know exactly what we are building. And then we can just create a flexboard container. And now let's start using dynamic content. So let's use a dynamic field. And let's drag this here. The source is fantastic. The field, we can just come down here to created date. That's the first thing. Okay, so you can see this is the date that the notification was created. It's not showing exactly how we want this to show, but we can come down here. We can come to filter field output. We can turn this on, and then we can come here. We can just type human. And then you can see this human readable time difference. We can select this, and then you can see that we have 3 minutes. And then we can also come down to custom field output. We can turn this on yes, and then we can write something after 3 minutes, and we can just say 3 minutes ago, something like that. So it's now 4 minutes ago. So you can see that's a dynamic content. Fantastic. So now let's add another dynamic field to these two as well. So let's bring in another one. And for this field here, we want the content of our notification, right? So let's search for that. I have this notification content here, so I'm going to click this. And then you can see that the notification I just created right now, just fantastic stuff there, right? The final thing we want to have in our drop down will be a checkbox for people to just check this, that they've possibly just seen or read this. So for this, we are just going to search data store. So we have a data store button here. So we're just going to drag that here. We're going to select our store. Apparently that should be read notification. And then our label, we don't want to even have a text there as label. We're going to take this out. We can then maybe use an icon. You can come here and search for an icon. Maybe check, something like that. This check here, you can use this, something like that. But again, I might just want to maybe just upload an SVG. Yes, let's enable this. And then I have an SVG here, is already selected. Maybe I should use this. That kind of match my color, right? I think I like it. So I'm just going to use that. Again, I can style this icon. We're going to have to style all of this thing. So let's make this a little bigger. Something like that. That's awesome. There's something we should even add to this listing already. Maybe like a count. We want this to count. Maybe I should add that now. Maybe later, once we are done with the form, we can come back to this to add that. That will make sense for visuality. But let's just continue this. For this, I just want to start this a little. I might just come to border. This I can just do solid, and then let's untoggle this. For top, I can just do 1, and then I can maybe give this some color, something very light and something very fainty. Oh, good. Let's see that. You can see this. That's good. It won't make a lot of sense right now, but definitely that will make sense later. Now let's come to our element here, and let's bring in a container. There is a way I want to just bring all of these things together. So let's make this roll horizontal, and then let's just drag this here into this. I want to drag things together there. So for this now, let me just come to, that's for a dynamic field there. Let's come to advanced. For the width, let's come to custom, and let's just give this a 90% width. And for this one here, let's also edit this. Let's come to advanced. Let's come to custom. Let's just give this maybe 6%. You can see that's good. And then now I can drag this as well into this here. And you can see that here. That's super cool and awesome. So now I can just centralize this. Fantastic. Okay, so let's close our container. Let's take our container above. Let's bring this down. Something like that. And now we can start this further. Let's publish this. Good. So now we are done with this. Now let's go to our Dropbar here and let's add that to our template. So now let's come to our template here. Notification drop down. So I have that here. So I can save that. Now I can publish this. And then if I do this now, so you can see that I now have a drop down here, but for this drop down here you can see that there's nothing here. Let's try to edit this drop bar. Good. And we can just come here and search for listing. So we have this listing grid here. Let's just bring that here, and then we need to select our listing. So we just created the listing. Now it should be notification listing. So let's select that. And you can see how this is showing here. Let's just stick to one column so you can see this. You can feel free to customize all of this however you want to. You can just come back here to publish. So now let's come back to the front end now and let's refresh this. Good. So now that we have our page refreshed, now you can see that we have a notification bar here. So you can see if I hover around this, now I have this drop down here. This is super good and awesome. So right now, let's just try to create a page so that we have a place where there's a form so that we can easily now start updating our notifications because we have it working right now, right? So now let's come to the back end here. Let's just come to page. Let's just add a new page. I'll just call this notification page. Feel free to call it whatever you want to. I'll publish this page and then let's edit this with Elementor. So here let's just create a container. Maybe I should create something more like this. Good. So we can just drag this a little more to give this maybe a little more space. Basically we should change this to Elementor full width. Right, I should have just toggled the notification here off earlier. I forgot to do that, but that's fine. So that's gone. So I can add some padding to these two as well to just have some space. Maybe I should just do 60 round, but feel free to do this however you want to. For this right now, I can just add a heading. I can just say notification, or maybe add a notification, right? And then I can also now bring in a form, right? So we have a jet form here, so I can just have that below here. And I can choose a form for this. We can select our notification form there. So basically you can see how this is showing up. I can maybe just give this a little bit more space here, but okay. Sometimes this can be crazy like that. So let's just drag this something like this. All right, good. So now I can publish this. And now let's view our page in front end. So now we now have a notification page. Super awesome. Let's experiment with this, how this is working. Let's check it out. And for my date here, I can just come here, select any random date will be good for this. That's it. And then I can submit this. Now let's check our notification. You can see this 1 second ago. I hope this notification is working. Check it out. Super good, super awesome. But you will notice that immediately I added this, you will notice that there was a refresh on the page, but we don't like that. We should just go back to the form and then let's try to edit that. So if you come down here, For our submit type here, let's change this to AJAX. We don't want this reloading in time we do that. So now let's publish this. So if we come front end right now, if we type in something here, it should load here without having to refresh the page. So now our notification is working. We can type in from front end. Now it will not reload the page, but we also want to make sure that this button here, once we click it, it can take this notification outside of this without also reloading these two as well. Another thing we can still add to this notification here is a counter here for this. To solve this problem, let's go to our listing. Let's try to add something there. So for our listing here, let's just try to add something new. First off, maybe a heading. I told you this before. This should be something I probably should have added earlier. And then I can probably just take this here. Let's just even remove this from H2. Let's make this a div, something like that. And then let's come to a dynamic tag here. We can just scroll down to the very last option here, which is query result count. That's exactly what we want. So now you see it says 0. We want to also add a query. That should be our notification query. Total result count is good. So now you can see that we have 3 notifications there written there. So now let's come to advanced. We want to write something after that says like 3 unread notification. So I want to do notification, and then let's do something like this, and then add S there so that we have different option if it is just one notification. So we can style this however we want to style this. Maybe that's too big. Maybe we should just reduce that a little. I really don't like this right now with this bar here. Maybe I need to take that out. Let's see what we can do to solve that problem. Let's come to the container here. Let's come to border. We might just make this bottom so that the border comes at the bottom, something like this. Or we might also maybe just give this container the border. Let's work with this, something like this. So now let's see how that works. Okay. So now for our heading, we can give this maybe some space at the bottom. Let's do another 10 at the bottom. That's fantastic. So now for the container right now, I can take this border out completely. So let's just say none, something like this. Super good. Now let's publish this. There's still a problem here, but we would come back to solve that problem. So now if I refresh this page, if I come down here, so you can see that every of the notification here now has 3 unread notification, but we want to have only one of it show. So that's the reason why we have dynamic content earlier. So let's now come back to this field. Let's come to the advanced option here. Now let's come to dynamic visibility. Let's turn this on. We can show this content if from here, let's select a condition for this, and the condition here is under this listing, and is if this listing is an n item rather. So we need to specify that n there, and that n should be when this is the first content. So that's exactly when we want to show this. We can then publish this, and then if we come back here and then we refresh our page, if we come now, you can see that I have 3 unread notification only at the top of this right now because we set this to the first. We could easily just set this to the last 2 as well. Let's come back to JetEngine. From here, let's come to our query builder. And let's edit this query. We can just scroll down here. We want to add new. So for this field here, what we want to do is that we want to come to the field here. We want to use an item ID, and then we want to say not in the list. And for the value here, let's come to dynamic tag here. Let's just search for store. So let's come to get store, and then let's select our store, which is red notification, and let's apply this. So what we are saying essentially is that any item you're about to query should not be in the list of any item that the user have read or that have expired. That's exactly what we are saying. Super simple and easy, right? So now let's update this query. Query updated. So now before we go to our front end to experiment with this and refresh this page, there's still something we have to do real quick. Let's come to our listing and then let's come to our data store button here. We want to come to content. We want to make sure that we reload listing grid on success. That's extremely important. And then we want to give this a grid ID. Anything, you can just call it anything here. I can just call this reload. And then I'll copy this ID. And then I'll publish this. We are going to come to this wrapper here. Let's just take this down a little. So now we're going to edit this. And then we're just going to come to advanced, and then we're going to come to our class ID. We're going to paste that here. This is our notification drop down really, and then we're going to publish this. And once we do this, once we come to the front end here, we can then refresh this, and then we can see our notification here, and then we can now play with this. Let's toggle this. And you can see that's as refreshed now, and the page didn't reload. Even the notification there did not reload. How super awesome is this? So this is the last notification. I'm supposed to toggle this off, but again, I'm going to leave this the way it is here. It says, hello, have you subscribed to this YouTube channel here? You need to do so right now. That notification is not meant to be deleted. That's exactly how to create a notification system like this for your website. What you want to notify your audience. We can style this further. We can even put maybe a first name. We can make this a lot more dynamic. If you want to see more tutorials around this on this channel, feel free to let us know in the comment section. If this video has super helped you, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, like I said, to see more awesome tutorial like this on this channel. That's my time for this tutorial. I'm pretty much exhausted. I'll see you in another one, and until then, take good care.